Chapter 8. Tomorrow, if we take it. By the time Karlach finished telling the story, the tavern had gone quiet in the way a room goes quiet when it realizes it has accidentally become holy. Not temple holy. Nothing so polished as that. This was tavern holy, hearth holy, last candle burning holy. The kind made of sticky tables, emptied bottles, tired hands, rainwater on boots, and people who had survived long enough to sit together and be ridiculous. Morning had come slowly over Baldur's gate while they talked. It had crept through the windows in grey-blue strips, touching the edge of Gale's pipe, the silver of Shadowheart's hair, the rim of Astarion's abandoned glass, the scars on Wyll's hands, the warm gold glow beneath Karlach's breastbone. Not red. Not warning bright. Gold. Steady. Alive. Karlach sat with one boot hooked around the leg of her chair, one hand wrapped around Wyll's, and the other resting over her chest as though she still needed every now and then to check that the rhythm was real. It was. Slow, strong, hers. Astarion was the first to ruin the silence, because of course he was. Well, he said, setting down his glass with great care. That was excessive. Karlach blinked at him. Excessive. Wildly, there were infernal ledgers, a cabaret assassin, emotional machinery, a singing dwarf, an orphan in an apron. Only briefly, Wyll said. Briefly is more than enough apron for an orphan, darling. Karlach grinned. You're just jealous you didn't get to see it. I am devastated, yes. I shall have to paint the image in my mind and then spend years recovering. Shadowheart rubbed her eyes with the heel of one hand. You will not spend years recovering. You will mention it for years. Same thing. Gale, who had been staring at Karlach with a look that was trying very hard to be academic and failing completely, cleared his throat. To summarize, he said. Everyone groaned. No, Astarion said. Absolutely not, Shadowheart said. Karlach pointed at him. Careful, wizard. Gale raised both hands. Only briefly. You don't know how, Shadowheart said. I know how to be brief. Astarion laughed once. That is the most confidently false thing you have ever said. Gale looked offended, which was one of his most natural states. I am capable of concise analysis. Prove it, Karlach said. Gale straightened. Avernus, Blueprints, Flow the Garrotter, House of Hope, Yrgir in Song, Soulcoin, Forge, Mizora, Strategic Furnace, Return. A pause. Then Astarion looked to Shadowheart. Shadowheart looked to Wyll. Wyll looked to Karlach. Karlach looked delighted. Not bad. Gale beamed. Then his pipe released a small puff of smoke that formed a glowing diagram of the entire sequence, complete with arrows, labels, and a tiny smoking furnace at the end. Astarion pointed at it. That does not count as brief. Gale stared at the smoke diagram. I did not ask it to do that. You never do, Shadowheart said. The diagram's tiny furnace sprouted a face and winked. Wyll closed his eyes. The pipe has become a menace. The pipe has always been a menace, Astarion said. Some of us simply noticed earlier. Karlach leaned across the table examining the smoke diagram. The tiny version of herself was represented by a stick figure with horns, flames, and what appeared to be an axe larger than its body. Oi, pipe made me look good. It gave me wine, Astarion said, narrowing his eyes. Fine. I tolerate it for 6 more minutes. The pipe puffed proudly. Shadowheart leaned back in her chair, arms folded, the exhaustion of the night beginning to show in the soft slump of her shoulders. She had been trying to stay awake for the better part of an hour by sheer force of disapproval. So, she said, that was the short version? Karlach's grin went broad and wicked. Oh, yeah. Astarion made a strangled sound. Gods help us! Wyll, who had been quiet for a while, smiled down at his cup. It was missing several battles. Several? Gale asked, instantly interested. No, said three people at once. Wyll lifted his head, innocent as a man who had known exactly what he was doing. Karlach squeezed his hand. Look at you, causing trouble. I am merely providing context. You're learning from me. A worrying but pleasant development. Astarion stared at them. If the two of you become one of those couples that develops a shared language of private jokes and battlefield innuendo, I will leave the city. You won't, Shadowheart said. I might. You would miss the gossip. I could receive letters. From whom? Astarion considered. Karlach pointed at him. You'd miss us. I would miss the wine. And us. The wine near you. And us. He sighed, dramatic enough to ruffle the candle flame. Fine. I would notice the sudden absence of noise. Karlach put a hand over her heart. That's the sweetest thing you've ever said to me. Tragic, isn't it? Wyll's thumb moved over Karlach's knuckles beneath the table. She felt it and looked at him. For a moment the others blurred. Gale arguing with his pipe in a whisper, Shadowheart trying not to fall asleep, Astarion pretending he was not glancing at them every few breaths. The tavern, the morning, the story all softened around the edges. Wyll looked tired. Not Avernus tired, not the sharp, hunted exhaustion he had carried through the hells. This was ordinary tired. Up too late tired. Too much wine and too many feelings tired. Mortal tired. Karlach loved the sight of it so fiercely it almost hurt. You all right? She asked quietly. His smile was small. Yes. Real yes? Real yes. No heroic nonsense. Not at this hour. Good. Heroic nonsense after breakfast only. A fair rule. She leaned closer. You did good, soldier. He looked at her. The blush rose before he could stop it. Karlach's grin returned at once. Oh, there it is. Karlach. No, no, love, don't hide it. Finest thing I've seen all night. And I saw Mizora go into a strategic furnace. I am begging you not to rank my embarrassment against Mizora's demise. Too late. You won. Astarion, without opening his eyes, said, The blush was impressive. Wyll stared at him. Were you asleep? I was resting beautifully. You were listening. I contain multitudes, Shadowheart yawned. You contain theatrics and wine. Also cheekbones, Karlach said. Astarion opened one eye. Finally, someone respectful. Gale's pipe puffed out the word cheekbones in elegant script. Astarion pointed at it. That one may stay. Gale looked exhausted. I am so pleased my enchanted smoking implement has earned your selective approval. Don't be smug, it's unbecoming. I was not. You were about to be. Gale opened his mouth, closed it, and took a dignified sip from an empty cup. Shadowheart noticed and silently slid a pitcher toward him. He nodded his thanks with as much grace as a man could muster after drinking air. Karlach watched them all and felt something strange begin to unfold inside her. Not the forge, not the engine, something quieter. A future, maybe, testing its legs. She had imagined coming home so many times in Avernus that home had become less a place than a bruise. Some days it had been Baldur's gate in sunlight. Some days it had been any bed that did not move. Some days it had been Wyll's hand in hers and nothing more complicated than breathing beside him without counting how many breaths remained. Now she was here. And the thing about getting what you wanted, after years of wanting had become a survival skill, was that it did not always feel like triumph right away. Sometimes it felt like standing in a doorway, afraid to step through because surely someone would notice the mistake and drag you back. Will's fingers tightened around hers. He knew. Of course he knew. Tomorrow, he said softly. Karlach looked at him. What about it? It is still there. She swallowed. Yeah. Rude of it, Astarion said, eyes still closed. Arriving before I've slept. Tomorrow has always been inconsiderate, Gale said. Shadowheart hummed. Better than yesterday. The words settled. Better than yesterday. Karlach looked toward the window. Morning had grown brighter, pale gold now, touching the wet cobbles outside. People were beginning to move through the street, a baker's boy with flour on his apron, a woman carrying flowers wrapped in cloth, two guards arguing over something too small to matter and therefore very important. The city had not stopped because she had gone to hell. It had not stopped because she had come back. That felt unfair. That felt wonderful. What do we do with it? She asked. No one laughed. Not because the question was heavy, though it was. Because each of them had asked some version of it before, in different rooms, under different scars. What do you do after the monster dies? What do you do after the god goes quiet? What do you do after the tadpole is gone, the pact is broken, the master is dust, the engine is changed, the city saved, the lover still breathing beside you? What do you do with tomorrow when you never expected to own one? Gale set his cup down. Well, he said carefully, one generally begins with breakfast. Karlach stared at him. Then she laughed. It burst out of her bright and sudden, and the others followed, even Shadowheart, even Astarion pretending he had been bullied into it by the atmosphere. Breakfast, Karlach said, wiping her eyes. Right, good. Love a plan. I am known for my strategic mind, Gale said. Breakfast is not a strategy, Shadowheart said. It is the foundation of many. Astarion waved a lazy hand. Speak for yourself. I am having wine and a nap. That is not breakfast. That is because I am not a coward. Wyll smiled. I believe Karlach asked what we do with tomorrow, not how we avoid it. Oh, I will avoid tomorrow beautifully. Watch me. Karlach leaned forward. No, really. What do we do? Wyll looked at her, and the softness in his eyes did not embarrass him this time. I was thinking, he said, that first we sleep. Good start. Then perhaps we find somewhere to stay that does not object to our existence. A room with windows that don't scream, Karlach said. A very strict requirement. And a bed that doesn't try to eat anyone. Ideally. And a kitchen. Wyll's smile deepened. Yes, a kitchen. I'm going to burn things in it, almost certainly. Some on purpose. I look forward to the distinction. Astarion opened both eyes now. Are we being subjected to domestic planning? Yes, Shadowheart said. Can we not? No. Karlach ignored them, because domestic planning, it turned out, felt like rebellion. And dogs, she said. Wyll inhaled slowly. Astarion sat up. Oh, this should be good. How many dogs? Wyll asked. Karlach narrowed her eyes. That question has traps in it. It has logistics in it. Same thing if you say it like that. Gale leaned in, suddenly helpful. The lower city does have several neighbourhoods where a modest home might support 1 or 2 medium dogs. Coward numbers, Karlach said. Shadowheart's lips twitched. Wyll turned to Gale. Do not assist her in escalating. I was attempting to provide practical parameters. You gave her a starting bid. Karlach pointed at Gale. See? Wizard gets it. I am not certain I do. You do now. Astarion swirled the last of his wine. If you adopt several dogs, I require advance warning before visiting. You visit? Karlach asked. He looked offended. Occasionally. You could visit the dogs. I said warning, not invitation. Shadowheart looked at him with open amusement. You'd spoil them. I would not. You would. I have no interest in dogs. You'd buy them little coats. Astarion's silence was too long. Karlach slammed a hand on the table. You would! I appreciate tailoring. Wyll laughed. Really laughed. Not the quiet, controlled sort. Not the soft laugh Karlach treasured, because it felt like finding water in the desert. This one was fuller. Open. The sort of laugh that belonged in morning light. Karlach watched him. Her heart beat gold. Wyll caught her looking. What? Nothing. That is not a nothing face. I'm just... She searched for the word, found several that were too small and shrugged. Happy you're here. His smile gentled. So am I. With me. Always? Don't say always unless you mean it. I do. The tavern noise seemed to hush around them again, that traitorous room making space for tenderness no one had asked it to spotlight. Karlach swallowed. Well, good, she said, because anything more would come out too raw, and she had already been raw enough for one night. Because I've got several dogs to negotiate. Wyll lifted her hand and kissed her knuckles. Then I shall prepare my strongest argument for 2. 3. 2. 4, if one is small. That is not how numbers work. It is if the dog is little. Astarion groaned. Please let Mizora return. I cannot endure this. No, Wyll said without looking away from Karlach. The word was still quiet. Still absolute. No. Mizora did not get to return, not to this room, not to his voice, not to the future they were daring to name. Karlach heard it and squeezed his hand. Shadowheart stood then, slowly, stretching like a cat who had been pretending not to care about the fire. I should go before I fall asleep face first in Gale's pipe smoke. Gale drew the pipe protectively closer. It is not ordinary smoke. That is the problem. The pipe released a tiny yawn-shaped puff. Astarion pointed at it. Even the pipe is tired. Good. Let it die. It is not dying, Gale said. It could try. Shadowheart looked at Karlach and Wyll, and for once there was no guard in her expression. I'm glad you came back, she said. Karlach's throat tightened immediately. Yeah? Shadowheart rolled her eyes, but it was weak work. No, I've endured hours of your hell travelogue because I'm indifferent. Karlach stood. Shadowheart held up a hand. No rib-cracking hug. Karlach stopped, offended. I do gentle now. Do you? Wyll made a thoughtful sound. Karlach glared at him. Careful. I said nothing. You implied. I would never. You implied with posture? Astarion murmured. He does have expressive posture. Shadowheart stepped forward before Karlach could answer and hugged her first. Karlach went still, then carefully, wrapped her arms around her. Shadowheart's voice was low against her shoulder. I mean it. Karlach closed her eyes. Me too. That doesn't make sense. Doesn't have to. Shadowheart huffed but did not let go right away. When she finally stepped back, she looked at Wyll. And you. Wyll straightened as if receiving a formal address. Shadowheart regarded him for a moment. Then she pulled him into a hug too. He blinked in surprise, then smiled and returned it. Karlach put both hands over her mouth and made a muffled sound of delight. Shadowheart released him and pointed at her. Not a word. Karlach shook her head, eyes wide, still muffling herself. Astarion leaned toward Gale. She will last 6 seconds. 3, Gale said. Karlach dropped her hands. That was lovely. Shadowheart sighed. Called it, Gale said. Astarion lifted 2 fingers. I was closer. Shadowheart gathered her cloak with whatever dignity remained. I regret all of you. No, you don't, Karlach said. Shadowheart paused at that. Her expression softened, but only by the amount she could plausibly deny later. No, she said, I don't. She left before anyone could make it worse. Gale stood next, pipe tucked carefully away despite Astarion's visible disappointment. I shall refrain, he said, from asking any further technical questions tonight. Heroic restraint, Wyll said. Thank you. It is costing me dearly. Karlach grinned. We know. Gale looked at her then, and the humour wavered. I am very glad, he said, that the world was forced to make room for you. Karlach blinked. Gale cleared his throat. And if your newly stabilised engine ever produces unusual arcane fluctuations, I would be grateful if you informed me before it either becomes dangerous or academically fascinating. There he is, Astarion said. Karlach laughed, but there was a wobble in it. Thanks, Gale. He hugged her with surprising fierceness. Karlach hugged him back and tried not to think about the docks, about all the faces she had nearly left behind, about the fact that here they were now, doing goodbyes that were not last goodbyes. When Gale drew away, his pipe gave a soft puff and produced a tiny gold heart. Astarion stared. Oh, spare me. The heart sprouted little fangs. Astarion paused. Acceptable. Gale looked pleased. It likes you. I will destroy it. You say that often. I mean it fondly now. Gale seemed unwise enough to be touched by that. He turned to Wyll and clasped his shoulder. Well done, Wyll. Wyll nodded. Thank you. No, I mean it. Not merely surviving, not merely breaking a pact, defining yourself after it. Gale's voice softened. That is difficult magic, even when no spell is involved. Wyll looked down, then back up. I had help. Gale smiled. The best kind. After Gale left, Astarion remained seated. Naturally. He would be last, if only to make it appear deliberate rather than emotional. Karlach slid back into her chair across from him. Well? Astarion looked around. Well, what? Where's my goodbye? I was hoping you'd forget. Never. Tragic. She opened her arms from across the table. He stared at them. No. Yes. No. You hugged me earlier. I was ambushed. This is informed consent. I do not consent. You missed me. Astarion looked away. The silence that followed was small and sharp. Karlach's arms lowered. Yeah, he said finally. I did. There was no joke under it. Not enough to hide behind. Karlach's face changed. Oh, fangs! Don't. She got up. He held out a finger. Karlach! She came around the table. I am warning you. She hugged him. He went rigid for perhaps 2 seconds. Then he exhaled and let one hand rest against her back. You smell like smoke, he muttered. You smell like expensive grief. That is my signature scent. She laughed softly. His hand tightened once, barely. I am glad you are not dead, he said. Yeah, me too. Do try to keep it that way. It's very inconvenient when people I tolerate perish. I'll do my best. Do better than that. You have dogs to inflict on Ravengard. Karlach squeezed him harder. He made a strangled sound. Gentle, remember? Sorry. No, you're not. No. When she released him, he adjusted his coat as if the hug had been a weather event. Then he looked at Wyll. For once, there was no mockery in him. Take care of her. Karlach immediately opened her mouth. Astarion pointed at her. Not because she needs it, because you will anyway, and I'm giving you permission to feel smug about it. Wyll's smile was quiet. I will. And let her take care of you back, or she'll become unbearable. She already is, Wyll said. Karlach gasped. Betrayal! Astarion smiled, slow and satisfied. There. He is learning. Wyll took Karlach's hand. I have an excellent teacher. Karlach's outrage dissolved instantly. Astarion groaned. Gods, I walked directly into that. You did, Wyll said. Awful. Proud of you. He stood, collected his cloak, and glanced toward the window where morning had properly arrived. If either of you produces a song about this, I expect editorial approval. Karlach and Wyll looked at each other. Astarion froze. No, Karlach bit her lip. No, he repeated. You already did, didn't you? Wyll's expression remained composed through heroic effort. Karlach failed entirely. Astarion stared at them both. I hate it. You haven't heard it, Karlach said. I hate it in advance. You have a line. Of course I do. It's funny. Of course it is. You ask for more wine? Astarion considered. Acceptable. He swept toward the door, then paused without turning around. For what it's worth, he said, voice lighter than the words deserved. It was a very good story. Then he left before anyone could catch him being kind. Karlach watched the door close behind him. Soft as butter, that one. Wyll smiled. He would hate that description. I know. They were alone at the table now, not alone in the tavern. Never that. A server moved sleepily behind the bar. Someone snored near the hearth. The city murmured awake beyond the windows. But their corner had emptied. The story had been told. Karlach sat slowly. The exhaustion hit all at once. Wyll sat beside her, close enough that their shoulders touched. For a while neither spoke. The silence was not empty. It held everything. Avernus, the docks, the first breath back in hell, Wyll reaching for magic that was gone, Flo's stage, the soul coin wrapped in blue cloth, Hope's biscuits, Uegir's reluctant song, the forge, Mizora's face as the smile finally vanished, their friends' glasses raised in the morning light. Karlach leaned her head on Wyll's shoulder. I'm tired. His cheek rested against her hair. Then sleep. Here? If you like. In a tavern? You have slept in worse places. True. The chair is not biting. Also true. A beat passed. You think we can really do it? She asked. Sleep in a tavern? No, you beautiful idiot. He smiled against her hair. The rest. Wyll looked out the window. Baldur's Gate waited beyond it. Not healed, not safe, not simple. A city of old wounds and new scaffolding, full of people who needed too much and forgave too slowly and kept living anyway. Yes, he said. Karlach lifted her head. You didn't even make a speech. I can, if you prefer. Don't you dare. His eyes warmed. Yes, he said again. I think we can. Not perfectly. Not all at once. But we can choose breakfast, then a room, then perhaps a house, then, in a moment of profound weakness, 2 dogs. 3. 2. 3 if one is small. We will revisit this when we are not both exhausted. That means I win. It does not. It does, though. He took her hand and turned it over, pressing a kiss to her palm. Karlach's breath caught. Still. After everything. Still. I think, Wyll said, we take tomorrow the way we took every road in Avernus. How's that? Together, improvising, with far too much confidence. And a strategic furnace when needed. I was trying to be sincere. I know. I improved it. He laughed softly. She smiled and looked down at their joined hands. The scars were still there, on both of them. Some visible, some not. Neither of them had come home clean. Neither had come home unchanged. That was not how hell worked. That was not how survival worked. But tomorrow did not require clean hands. Only living ones. Karlach lifted their hands and kissed his knuckles. I love you, she said. I love you too. I'm going to say it a lot. I look forward to that. Publicly. I suspected. with gestures. I am bracing myself. And songs. Wyll closed his eyes. Karlach. What? We're already in one. That is exactly my concern. She grinned. Outside, the sun finally broke over the roofline, thin and pale and stubborn. Light crossed the tavern floor, touched the table and climbed the edge of Karlach's arm. It warmed the gold glow beneath her chest without competing with it. For the first time in 10 years, the sun did not feel like a threat. Karlach stared at it. Wyll saw. He did not speak. The light reached her face. She closed her eyes, breathed in, breathed out. Still here. Still mine. Still time. When she opened her eyes, Wyll was watching her with that look again, the one Astarion mocked, the one Gale would probably chart if allowed, the one Shadowheart called disgusting and nice. Karlach smiled. Morning, soldier. Wyll's smile answered hers. Morning, my love. She made a pleased, helpless sound. Gods, say that again later. As often as you like. Dangerous offer. I know. The tavern door opened behind them. Astarion's voice drifted in from the street. I forgot my gloves. And if you are kissing in there, I am leaving them to rot. Karlach burst out laughing. Wyll lowered his head, shoulders shaking. Astarion appeared in the doorway, saw them laughing, and sighed. Worse. Joy. He crossed the tavern with great suffering, retrieved his gloves from the back of his chair, and pointed at them both. Do not start the next adventure before I have slept. Karlach grinned. No promises. I despise you. No, you don't. Give it time. He left again. A moment later, his head reappeared. And if there is a goat, I am not responsible for what happens. Karlach turned slowly to Wyll. Wyll did not look at her. Absolutely not. You heard him. He said, if. No. Astarion brought it up. He was warning us against it. He planted the idea. No goats. Tiny goat. No. Rescue goat. No. Emotionally important goat. Wyll's mouth twitched. Karlach pointed. You smiled. I did not. You did. I am tired. You're weakening. I am not. She leaned against him, laughing. He wrapped an arm around her. The city woke around them. There would be work after this. Hard work. The kind no song could compress into a chorus. They would have to find a place to live, speak to Ulder, decide what to do with the soul coin, help Gale research safe rituals with very clear boundaries around the word experiment, visit Shadowheart, endure Astarion's commentary, perhaps return to the House of Hope one day with better biscuits and a warning label for the pipe. There would be nightmares. There would be grief. There would be mornings when the past came back wearing old smoke and old voices. There would be days Karlach touched her chest and remembered the forge. Days Wyll heard Mizora's pet in the hinge of a door and had to remind himself that no one owned his name. But there would also be breakfast. There would be windows. There would be a bed that did not bite. There would be at least 2 dogs. Possibly 3. There would be laughter in rooms that had never heard hell. There would be hands held because they wanted to be, not because the world was ending. Tomorrow was not a cure. Tomorrow was not a promise from a god or a devil or a destiny written in cleaner ink than the rest. Tomorrow was a door. And after everything, after Avernus, after blueprints, after flow, after hope, after the forge, after Mizora, after every ledger that had tried to turn them into costs, Karlach and Wyll knew exactly what to do with doors. Open them. Kick them. Argue with them. Occasionally punch them in the knocker if they got rude, but mostly, if they were lucky, walk through. Together. Karlach stood and pulled Wyll up with her. He looked toward the window, then back at her. Ready? She thought about that. Then she grinned, bright as fire and morning. No, Wyll laughed. Karlach squeezed his hand. But let's take it anyway. And they stepped out into the day.
So to summarize, Avernus, blueprints, a forge, Mizora, flow the Garaja, Jurgirin song, and a strategic furnace. You forgot the wine.
And diagrams.
And courage, soldier.
And a very stubborn love. Funny story from hell. Funny story from fire. Funny how a last resort can turn into desire. There was the coin, there was the cost, there was the girl they counted lost. But count me now, we're here, we're whole. We got tomorrow burning in our soul.
A funny story from chains, from fine print and lies, from the devil in the doorway with mercy in her eyes. There was the blade
they tried to own, a borrowed spell, a noble bone. But we came back with the name in my hand.
Not her pet, not her plan.
We are not pretending that the scars all disappear.
We are not forgetting what it cost to bring us here.
But the fire is not a cage now,
and the past is not the chain.
If tomorrow comes at sunrise, we will take it just the same. Tomorrow, if we take it. Tomorrow, if we dare. Tomorrow is a doorway with a little morning air. Raise the glass, strike the spark, sing it louder through the dark. We came home from hell alive, and tomorrow's ours to start.
If this is hope, I'll drink to it. Don't expect me to be nice.
And yet somehow typical.
Theoretically speaking, this was wildly ill-advised.
I won't call it easy, I won't call it clean. I won't bless the hands that built the killing machine. But I have got my body, I have got my name. And if the fire remembers, I remember flame.
I won't call it justice just because we won. There are still old contracts hiding from the sun.
But no more fine print, no more lives for sale.
No more frightened children left to bargain at the veil.
There was the coin once.
There was the blade on the leash.
Now there is the reckoning.
Now there is release.
Side by side, hand in hand, scar to scar and spark to spark, we will build a little morning from the ashes of the dark. Tell it from the tavern, tell it from the scar, tell it from the hell road and the red infernal star. Tell it from the blueprints, tell it from the flame, tell it from the names they stole and the names we came to claim.
Funny story from hell.
Dangerous story from fire.
Funny how the lost come home.
Funny how the broken mend.
Funny how you start in ashes
And refuse to call it end. Tomorrow, if we take it. Tomorrow, if we dare. Tomorrow is a doorway with a little morning air. Raise the glass, strike the spark, sing it louder through the dark. We came home from hell alive, and tomorrow's ours to start. Tomorrow, if we take it. Tomorrow, if we fight. Tomorrow is the first road on the other side of night. No more chains, no more toll, no more devils owning souls. We came home from hell alive, and tomorrow's ours to hold.
So that's the story.
That's the short version.
Gods help us.
I still believe there should be diagrams.
Tomorrow, perhaps.
Tomorrow